Welcome to all the attendees. This is the EBTC webinar series 1, and this is the third webinar which we are going to be talking about on wastewater as a resource and a life cycle assessment. My name is Monish Verma. I'm the Environment Sector Specialist at EBTC. We will have two guest speakers today, and one of them is Mr. Raghu from GIZ. And we were supposed to have Mr. Sanmit Ahuja from ETI, but somebody is going to be substituting for him because he's being called to the Ministry of Environment at this moment. And so let me start. And I will not give my own introduction. I've done that. And I said Raghu Babu Nukala. He's from GIZ. He'll be our guest speaker as well. And we'll have somebody subbing for Sanmit, Mr. Sandeep Garg from ETI as well. Okay, let me just begin. This is the first session. We have 3 sessions because we have 3 speakers. And let me just set the ball rolling by talking about EBTC a little bit. We'll talk about the water and wastewater sector. We'll see what is driving it, what is the assessment for that, what the technologies are between Europe and India. We will also then talk about why this webinar is called wastewater as a resource, and we'll see what options there are for treated wastewater. And so let me begin. The EBTC's mission is to actually establish clean tech related businesses in India from European Union. We look at a collaborative approach and a platform approach which will actually set in place an ecosystem for both Europe and India to work together. We have 4 offices across India. We have in Bangalore, Calcutta, Mumbai, and New Delhi, and 4 specialists in all the 4 sectors that we work in: biotech, energy, environment, and transport. And we look at this from visibility to incubation of the European enterprise. And we do have taken some initiatives which have basically come in because of the ecosystem that needs to exist on the ground in India before any project is a successful one. So we do look at collaboration very seriously, and we are looking at research and innovation, the technology cycle, the demonstration and impact matrix that is required for showing if the technology is successful or not. These are the 4 initiatives that we are actually looking to do. Some of them already started. EEN stands for European Enterprise Network, which tries to actually increase the opportunities between EU and India enterprises, small and medium, to do business, but to do research as well. Then to take research to market, we're looking at research, innovation, and business approach, looking at adapting technology to the technology management interface, and maybe also talking about making pilots happen, because that's the last part of demonstration of a project to see if it is really valid and verified. Okay, let me just talk straight away about wastewater. And currently at this moment, just a few days ago, Indian government and the Vice President of India, Mr. Mohammed Hamid Ansari, has talked about our approach to address the malaise of wastewater. And because 80% of sewage generated in India just flows into rivers, lakes, and ponds, contaminating them. And it's estimated that the cities alone produce about 40,000 million liters of sewage, which is enough to irrigate a 9 million hectare area. And 20% gets treated. So actually more water leads to more waste. And that's the equation that needs to change. And overall, this is an assessment for the water and wastewater sectors. These are, as you know, in every country, they are very large sectors. And in India, in particular, they are over $1 billion sectors. There is some level of, let's say, maturity at the Indian level, but it still requires a lot of technological input, expertise in terms of management. And that's why the sector remains something that is interesting to actually look at. And the market drivers for interacting between EU and India is that there are learnings to be had from both sides. I mean, we're looking at a policy and regulatory framework which can learn from each other. Maybe Europe is more advanced, but there are issues that India can also look at trying to tell them about in terms of these some of the innovations that come out at the bottom of the pyramid. The drivers in Europe are largely regulations. In India, that is also the case, but there is also the issue with respect to that the regulations don't always lead to success in terms of new technologies coming in because of a fragmented market and a difficult to work environment. In general, we know from the evolution of the wastewater technologies that we are moving to the what we call the future. But in India, we are still doing very simple things, and there is a lot of option for actually looking at increasing the quotient for environmental technologies, in particular here water, and the technology strengths between both Europe and India. They are in a sense complementary, and there is a lot of things that can be understood between both these countries if they work together. India has some expertise in, I think, in activated sludge processes by now, and which are not used in Europe, but there are some maybe to that extent. But there are other things in which Europe can actually also look at presence in India, maybe membrane bioreactors and nanofiltration, etc., which is coming up in both. So in general, they're more advanced, the European companies, but they should have a huge potential in the Indian market. So just to sum up, I think it's Europe is a mature industry in terms of wastewater. Wastewaters are used. They are also reused. They are also recycled. And in India, the case is not so clear because, I mean, there is always been issue with respect to wastewater treatment, which has earlier been told about that we only treat about 20%. Industrially also that is nearly the same percentage. So there are a lot of Indian companies that are looking at trying to find joint ventures. There have been certain institutions which are looking at ways of reusing their water because the water has become scarce. And in that sense, the government of India has actually also been looking at some regulations that have come into place, some policies. The water policy actually talks about industrial effluent should not reach, for instance, groundwater, should not be part of any, avoid any hydrological cycle related impacts. And the same thing with the Ministry of Forests, which is talking about corporate responsibility of how sectors which are polluting like pulp and paper, distilleries, dyes and others need to actually try to discharge water which is of good quality, or now, as we will talk about later in this presentation, that there are new norms talking about no discharge or zero discharge, like it is. Some examples that my colleague Raghu will talk about, and then I will just leave it to that. There are some other issues as well in terms of the distilleries also being able to use their effluents for irrigation purposes as well. So in general, wastewater can be a resource, but if in the Indian context where more water is equal to more waste, it needs to be actually looked at differently. We do have to really reduce the amount of wastewater we generate. I think that's quite doable. We have to reuse it in the categories that I mentioned here, and recycle what is doable or what is not reusable in that sense, and recycle the nutrients from it and create a business model, if possible, for appropriate, let's say, uses. It can't be used without actually understanding what the health benefits are or otherwise. All right, so that sort of ends my presentation. I'm going to just pass it over to my colleague Raghu, who is going to be talking about the industries in particular.
Yeah, thank you, Monish. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In my presentation, I will briefly touch upon GIZ IJ program about industry sectors in India. and its relevance for wastewater management. And lastly, we'll briefly look into the potentials and opportunities. IJ program, this is an Indo-German Environment Partnership Program within the umbrella of Indo-German Bilateral Development Cooperation. This program was previously called as ASM program, which was well known in the past as Advisory Services in Environment Management. This program started from March this year, will go on for 3 years in the first phase and 3 more years in the second phase. We have 3 core topics in this program. Sustainable industrial development being one of those. The other one is urban habitat, and the third one is policy for environment and climate. Capacity building is more a cross-cutting one across the 3 sectors. So I come from the sustainable industrial development component. Within this component, we have 3 core topics on which we work. Planning of new industrial parks and investment zones. This topic too has relevance for wastewater management. Secondly, wastewater management itself as a topic. And thirdly, environment-friendly techniques in identified industry sectors, in which wastewater is again another issue. The program itself is responding to the key challenges, and these are the 3 key challenges which have been identified for reforms from the Indian side. And we, as a strategy, we work on pilot measures to showcase technically innovative and financially viable solutions, and we look for upscaling and also come up with policy instruments to help in resolving the issues in the national level. Briefly looking into the industry sector, if we look at from the Government of India's perspective, they are targeting quite a big share of GDP in the industry sector in the near future, rising it from 16% currently to 25% in the medium run and even more in the long run. Growth rate is also anticipated to grow from 9 to 10% now to 14-16% in the midterm and 25% in the long run. We have also several, over 26 million units of MSMEs, which account for a good amount of manufacturing output. And importantly, we should also look into the national manufacturing policy, which has recently come up, which targets clean, green and energy efficient and globally competitive industry. Currently, as per the last year's statistics, the leading states which attract investments are Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Some of these states had been leading for many decades now already. If we look at the trends on the industrial development, in the previous times we used to have industrial estates and industrial parks, and this trend is more moving towards larger industrial agglomerations, larger industrial areas. For example, the new policy talks about national investment and manufacturing zones, which will have at least 5,000 hectares of land, special economic zones, which are export oriented, petroleum, chemicals and petrochemicals investment regions, which will be at least 250 square kilometers in area. Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor is a trendsetter, which extends from Delhi to Mumbai, 1483 kilometers in stretch and 150 kilometers on either side. Chennai-Bangalore Industrial Corridor has been proposed in the recent budget. This is of concern and importance for us when we looked into the industrial areas and the industrial development that India is looking into, because all these large investment regions will have bigger issues with wastewater management. And that reason I thought it's also an important factor for us to look into how industrialization is taking place, and there seems to be a lot of opportunity for us to look into when the new investment regions come up, the large ones, how to deal with wastewater management and wastewater as a resource. Now, if we look at the sectors which have been of concern from wastewater perspectives, I listed a couple of them here. India has identified 17 categories of highly polluting industries, and I have taken out a couple of them which are relevant from wastewater. There are others who are also relevant from waste and air pollution point of view. From the chemical industries, it's a concern, the petrochemicals, pesticides, drugs and pharmaceuticals, dyes, chloralkali. Chloralkali, many of them have shifted their processes from mercury based, but a couple of them still there. In the organic side or agro-based side, distilleries, sugar, tanneries, pulp and paper are still quite important from water pollution perspective. Smelters, integrated iron and steel, all refineries, fertilizer, these large ones are still an important point of view. The small scale industries, there are a lot of them, traditional ones particularly, electroplating, galvanizing, textile dyeing, and so on, are also very, very important. Now, these sectors are important for us from the potentials point of view, because if we compare the technologies in use, the water consumptions per unit of production, there are still variations as compared to the international standards. For example, in the pulp and paper sector, Europe is looking at something like 10 meter cube per ton of product. In India, it's as much as 50 meter cube per ton of product. In some cases, it's quite less even within India, something like 3.5 meter cube per ton. But still there are a lot of opportunities. Now, combined wastewater treatment plants has been found as a solution for SMEs, and there are about 153 of such combined wastewater facilities in India, but many of them still are having problems with compliance with standards for various reasons. Less than 7% of the treatment plants are complying with standards as per a 2005 report out of some 78 treatment plants studied. And there are still a lot of opportunity to improve those treatment plants, and also to think about how to make efficient and advanced treatment plants for other industrial parks where there is still a demand. So there are several challenges when we look into the common treatment plants: the technological issues, compliance with standards even beyond standards, to look for cost effectiveness and recycle and reuse, adopting of appropriate business models, whether it is private sector or public-private partnerships, that's still not so clear. Looking for PPPs and BOT or formation of SPVs by industries and so on, it's a little bit not well established still. Management systems are also unclear. How would the users pay charges? How would defaulters be taken into, or actions will be taken into those defaulting industries or users? How to deal with monitoring are still issues. In general, the most common problems associated with treatment we see in India, there are certain pollutant parameters of concern, for example, high COD, refractory COD, and toxicity. There are still problems with treating these pollutant parameters. AOX, for example, in pulp and paper, ammonical nitrogen in general for chemical effluents, TDS and salts, there are still problems with complying with standards on these parameters. Also, there are problems with biological treatment plants for reduction of BOD, mainly because of the toxicity elements, the refractory COD, and the other pollutant parameters. Lack of qualified and trained operators is also another issue. There are no qualified people really who can handle the treatment plants. And in the case of common treatment plants, as I mentioned, there is also a lack of clarity on business models and management models. And coming to the wastewater discharges is also another issue, because we are talking about recycle reuse. Water still is not very well seen, wastewater is still not seen as a resource. Most of the rivers in India do not have perennial flows, which means there is no dilution for effluents discharged, which means the impacts would become evident if there is a discharge. Groundwaters are getting stressed due to urbanization and industrialization and over-exploitation. So any land discharges have these risks for pollution of groundwater. Surface water bodies are a concern because of pollution and surface discharges on land. Recycle, reuse still is not very well practiced, though there is a huge opportunity. Pollution concerns in these water bodies are oxygen depletion, bacteriological pollution, eutrophication, toxicity, and salinity. We, under the IJA program, have taken up a couple of pilot plants to demonstrate technically innovative and financially viable solutions. And we would like to use these pilots to upscale and demonstrate solutions and also to look into the policy instruments that can help the government to take this subject in a bigger way. As part of our pilot measures, we have taken up for the state of Andhra Pradesh to study the existing 400 plus industrial parks to see where are the priority requirements for such common facilities and how to go about. We have taken specific case of one of the treatment plants in Nacharam Mallapur near Hyderabad to study how to improve it. We have taken up one in Gujarat in Vapi, and similarly we are also working on two sectors, textile sector and pulp and paper sector, to see how can we improve within them. We are primarily looking at technologies, efficient technologies with respect to prevention wherever possible, and also to comply with standards. We are also looking at if best available techniques from Europe could be of some relevance when we look at upgradation of these treatment plants. Reuse of treated waste is also on our priority, either for irrigation or for industrial reuse or for other uses. And monitoring and control is also on the priority. Can we bring in online monitoring systems, for example? If we'll see from, in general, the potentials and opportunities in India, we find, as we got feedback when we did contacts with some of the potential companies from Europe, we were looking at some downsides of these opportunities, the slow processes involved in providing of services in wastewater, inadequate capacities. In India, the market seems still not so open and not so much developed on the wastewater treatment. Not used to paying service costs by the users, and sometimes they also expect services to be at low cost or no cost. And these are also not very well developed, and market is also not very clear. Though many of them on the upside, there is a lot of regulatory risk for industries, and so they're also all looking for solutions. And the challenge is on cost effectiveness of infrastructure and services, and also how supportive are the government policies to bring in world-class infrastructure. At industry level, we see there is a lot of opportunities for process optimization, water and wastewater management, reduction of material consumption. So even the public sector enterprises, they have come out with a sustainable development guidelines wherein water is an issue, where they have to make action plans to bring down water consumption and improve efficiencies and so on. Similarly, improvement of performance of all the existing treatment plants and common treatment plants, and looking for new treatment plants in the existing industrial parks as well as upcoming parks is another opportunity. And particularly the technologies which focus on improved biological treatment, reduction of refractory COD, ammonical nitrogen and TDS salts is also an opportunity. Reuse of treated wastewater for agricultural use and putting back to hydrologic systems, as has been mentioned in the draft National Water Policy, we see as an opportunity in future. There is also coming interest for online monitoring systems. Companies are saying if they know immediately the pollution levels, they might undertake preventive measures. Even the regulatory bodies think if there are online monitoring systems, it might be easier for them to have a better control and even give relaxation for industries that comply well. Training and education courses are also an important opportunity we see, as certified ETP operators and managers don't exist still. And within our GIZ programs, we have a PPP program of GIZ, under which you could have an access to develop.de to the scheme, funding offered by the German ministry, BMZ. And there is also opportunity as an integrated PPP within IHF program, within the mandates of the IHF program in the topics that I had mentioned. We also see opportunity for acquiring new projects with GIZ and private sector as partners or public sector as partners. For example, there could be opportunities from BMU funded projects, EU projects or BMBF projects or World Bank or any other funding agency, which is an opportunity for GIZ to jointly work with potential partners. And GIZ is also open to participating in bidding and tenders issued by any public-private partners in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now this is Sandeep Garg. He's going to talk about the India Water Development Program. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hello all. I'm Sandeep Garg. Sanmit Ahuja, who is the Chief Executive of ETI Dynamics, had to come over here, but due to some urgent meeting at Ministry of Environment, he could not make it. So I'll take you through the presentation. ETI is basically a multidisciplinary applied economics firm. So as both of our friends, Mr. Raghu Babu and Mr. Monish, both have covered that there are a number of issues in the wastewater segment in India. ETI is working towards those issues and trying to solve, all the issues in a collaborative manner. What we understand, the basic points where India is lacking is the technology, second being the finance. So as Raghu Babu very aptly mentioned that people want low cost or no cost, industry or individual. Everyone wants to pollute, but no one wants to pay for the pollution. So there is a big need of getting good the best cutting edge technologies on board, which can actually resolve the problems at a very low cost, and need to put up a finance model, maybe a PPP model, a government support. That's where the innovation has to be done. So basically, ETI works on all those parameters. We help in knowledge collaboration, innovation foundation. We also talks about skills trainings, as my friend mentioned about lack of trained people for operating these plants. So that's the again basic parameter ETI wants to work on. So the sectors of expertise are energy, water and environment, healthcare and life sciences, education, technology and innovation, industrial park and cluster. So we are majorly focused on India, South Asia and Middle East. Yeah, so I'll brief you about the India Water Development Program. Under this program, we are actually helping the multi-stakeholder engagement. We are directly dealing with the policymakers at national and state level. We are developing the projects. We are creating these projects, because in India, when the project is out for bidding, it's already fixed. So you cannot work on a project when it is already tendered. You have to work on a project in a very much initial stage. So we organize roundtables and meetings very frequently. This is one such meeting we organized in December 2012, where Montek Singh Ahluwalia, who is the Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission India, and Akhilesh Yadav, who is the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, State of India. Sanmit Ahuja, CEO of ETI Dynamics, is also sitting with the Mr. Pekka, Ambassador of Finland. This is the project which ETI Dynamics has been working on for long now. This is River Ganges, which is the national river of India. This is the most endangered river of the world, having pollution load from all the sewage, industrial effluent and MSW as well. You can see in this slide there is very small chunk of pollution which is being treated. I doubt it's even 20%. So this is the kind of state of this national river. There is a big program being launched by Indian government where we are looking for better technologies, better financial models to put up a system to tackle this issue. About the Indian water market, as both of my friends have already covered, it's a huge market, and water is the next oil for India especially, and we estimate it to be a $30 billion market in the next 5 years. The split is given here. You can go in the details later. So I'll give you one case study. We have been working on the tanneries. Tannery cluster in one of the state of India. There are 400 tanners, all small tanners, and they generate close to 50 million liters of effluent a day. They're not able to put any good technology because they are small tanners and they cannot afford. Most of this effluent goes through the sewage pipelines. So we are working on this model to develop a project where actually there is a PPP model, and there is a common effluent treatment plant with a cutting edge technology specialized for chromium reduction, because chromium is the main issue with the tanneries. And we get the government as the guaranteed off-taker of the water which is being purified at a certain cost, so that we can make a business model, and this is a model with a revenue, so that this can sustain. These are the few other projects we have been working on. There is a 300 MLD based water treatment plant we have been working on Western India. In this, the railways, Indian Railways is the off-taker. They have agreed to take the water from the treated water from STPs. There are 15 other small sewage treatment plants in southern India we have been working on. The other important project is River Health Decision Support System. This is a project with a consortium of IITs. IITs are the #1 institutes, engineering institutes of India. This is a consortium with University of Oxford, Southampton, London School of Economics. So the project is about getting the river health decision support system tool in place. This tool will be used by the policymakers to understand the effects of decisions on the river health. So this is again being done under the River Ganges project. We have been developing a water innovation cluster. This is the India's first and largest innovation cluster in the world. The location for the first location is being put up in southern India, in Bangalore. This innovation cluster will provide the launchpad for new technologies to be tested for the Indian condition, Indian soil, and further commercialization. The main collaboration is with Vittal Innovation City for this and Southern Ontario Water Consortium. Now, how to participate? We promote new technologies and we get them on board through a strategic partnership program, and we guarantee access to the new projects in India. Most of the times we develop the projects around the solution offering for this individual cutting edge technology. There is another way of having open access where we publish our projects on our website, and you can go bid for the projects from there, and you can assess and go ahead with that. You can also make a project request to us individually if you want to develop some specific kind of project in India. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. We will take questions and at this point. But before I do that, let me just announce there are some things that we are doing with ETI Dynamics. EBTC is actually collaborating at a level to actually see how this innovation cluster can come into being from using some European technologies from clusters or from other companies who might be interested in trying to actually look at this development as probably just like Singapore's Hydro Hub. We would also be working with them to actually present something, which is the India Water Development Program in Brussels later this next month. We also have another delegation from one of our partners, which is the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, which is taking a delegation to Germany, and they are later maybe going to talk about it a little bit, but in essence they are looking at also river cleaning. And okay, so the basic methodology of asking questions is either to raise your hand, and I think we will respond with respect to that. And so please go ahead. Yeah, before the questions come in, let me just actually ask some of my colleagues a question themselves, is that in terms of the wastewater as a resource, which was the title of this particular webinar, where exactly in the let's say life stream or life cycle can we actually tap it in the Indian sense and try to get some resource which is recoverable? And I think this is probably directed towards Raghu. So before you start asking questions, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, right away I would say there's a huge opportunity for in-plant recycling and optimization. That's one thing which I was trying to highlight. If we benchmark ourselves against European or any other international norms, many of our industries in India still have a huge opportunities for improving and optimizing the water and recycling and reusing within the processes. Second of all, we also see a huge opportunity for agricultural uses. I think I should also mention to you, we have started a EU-India project under the FB7 for recycling water for crops. And this project is done in collaboration with 22 institutions from Europe and 12 institutions from India. Department of Biotechnology on the Indian side is supporting that. And here particularly they are looking into, from wastewater, can we extract some products out, or from wastewater can we put to the crops, and what kind of irrigation systems would be appropriate when we want to use it for crops, and how would the crops respond, and how should be the controls or quality of water when we use for crops. I think this is a big opportunity I see also as an opportunity. And thirdly, as we said in the National Water Policy, many of our water bodies would also can gainfully use water in recharging surface water bodies, either lakes or rivers. So if we can treat the wastewater very effectively to the required standards, probably we can also use it back in our hydrologic systems.
Yeah, thanks, Raghu.
I would like to add one thing here. If we are able to treat the industrial wastewater, apart from the recycling of the water, reuse of the water, we can actually get a benefit in terms of the operational period of that particular industry. So I'll take the example of distillery industry. Distillery industry can work for only 250 days because of some norms from Pollution Control Board. Now, because they never had a proper way of treating their pollution, the Pollution Control Board authority says, okay, if we let you work during the rainy season, you will discharge all your pollution into the rain. Now, if you treat your water and recycle it and make it a zero discharge and get the authority on board, you can actually operate for 330 days minimum. So that, gives you huge benefit, on your top line. So there are ways. I think, we all need to work in a collaboration and find out the best ways.
Yeah, thank you. I think that is something that we are not only just taking a wastewater related sector approach, we are also taking a very specific industrial approach, because some of the pollutants that are going into rivers do come from pulp and paper, do come from tanneries and textiles, which are industries which are, let's say, in a sense, prime candidates for trying out zero liquid discharge. Because one of the things about zero liquid discharge, which is nice, is that it's simple and easy, that there's just nothing going back, which of course, in technological terms, is quite a challenge. So there is maybe some opportunity that emanates from just that.
There's a question from Ramchandra Krishnamurthy.
Go ahead, Mr. Krishnamurthy.
There is a need of more legal framework to put their industries to treat their effluents before getting it discharged into any water bodies. Are we formulating, are we involving the government bodies, or are we suggesting the government bodies to plan any legal frameworks to address this issue? Unless otherwise, if it is done, there is a possibility of getting delayed or getting not the success as we are expecting.
Yeah, thank you very much. Raghu, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important concern you are raising. It's very true. Unless we have wastewaters treated to certain standards, we cannot discharge them to the wastewater bodies. Now, your question is there some government body taking up that issue? Is it not?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
Unless we are putting in the framework, we can't achieve our objective. That's what. Because there are rules already. There are codes which says the discharges. All those things are there, but nothing is there in the actual. I mean, nothing is implemented.
Correct.
So if you want to achieve our motive, there should be a strong legal framework which will work well.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. In fact, that is a concern which has to be flagged up, because right now the standards set by Pollution Control Board (CPCB), which are notified under the Environmental Protection Act, these are minimal national standards to be achieved by sectors irrespective of the discharge. Now they have given general standards for discharging to inland water bodies and irrigation and coastal discharges, but these are general standards. But when we talk about really discharging wastewater into those rivers where there is no flow, even most of the rivers don't even have the flow. Very rightly you pointed out, and that's an issue, to really set standards that are relevant when industry discharges into water bodies.
I would like to add one thing here. The best way out would be banning any discharge, because monitoring the discharge quality is not going to be very practical in upcoming, maybe for next 10 years. So if we ban the discharge and make it necessarily a zero discharge system, the industry has to get it treated up to that level where it can recharge, it can reuse the water. Now what happens today, we tell them you discharge water and take fresh water from the same river. Now, if it has to be taken from the same river, then why can't we have a standard where they have to recharge, they have to reuse, treat the same treated water, so that they will ensure themselves that yes, the water is treated to a certain extent. That is the way we can actually.
Yeah, you're right, very much right in that. In fact, as water policy also very well reflects, in all water short regions, industries should not be allowed to draw extra water. Very rightly said. No? But in certain areas, what we see is there is also gainful use of wastewater if it is properly tapped. The water value of it either for irrigation or even for hydrologic system. Many times we see if we stop the water will also get dried up. So sometimes you need probably also both. But the point very rightly raised is what standards do we have? I mean, monitoring systems today, there are a lot of online monitoring systems which can control and allow you to even make it internet enabled to check who is doing what at any given point. But important is there has to be, of course, a very well laid legal framework for that. That's a starting point. And rightly pointed out, no, if industries can reuse and stop extracting water, that is the best option, definitely.
Okay, thanks. I think we have another question, and I repeat, you do have to raise your hands before we could see you're asking a question. There's a question by Mr. Sunny Basim. Go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, hi. I am an SME, wastewater SME based over here in Budapest, Hungary.
Yes.
We are also a landlocked country, and water is a very important resource for us, and therefore wastewater treatment is very important in Hungary as well. I visit India regularly, being of Indian origin, and I have tried to participate in municipal wastewater projects, and it's been quite a challenge. There are a couple of things that I wanted to ask you guys regarding municipal wastewater treatment. Is there a valid format over here?
Yes.
Come on, municipal waste.
Okay.
Municipal waste or municipal wastewater?
Municipal wastewater, municipal sewage treatment.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The first is I have not seen too much of sewerage building capacity happening in our cities. I visited a number of the large cities, and the sewerage systems are really old and really aging. I mean, some of them have been built from the British times. But, normally in wastewater treatment for large cities or even medium cities, sewerage system is approximately 90% of the cost of wastewater treatment. What is, the government of India's standpoint regarding that? Is there a lot of investment taking place or going to take place in that area?
Yes, I think in terms of investment into sewage, the government of India certainly does have under JNNURM some levels of funding for some of the newer cities which are coming up. Also for some of tier 2 cities which they're looking at sewage. But the problem really is that the sewage network, as you probably already observed, is rather old and dilapidated, and putting money and investment into this kind of technology, given that the cities are growing the way they are always insufficient at some level. So that issue still remains. I think it is unresolved, but that's
Yeah, I have a observation that there have been new technological innovations coming up in this segment as well. Knowing that most of the expense is towards pumping the wastewater towards the STPs, the central STPs. Knowing that there are a number of technological advances coming up, we know of one technology which is being implemented by Delhi Jal Board now. The technology talks about segregating the solids locally and taking up only the water from the sewage. So they are not having concrete pipes, they are only having PVC pipes. I'm sorry, it's HDPE pipes. So they take only the water and don't take the solids with it. They have sections made out, after every 100-200 meters, and they treat the solids there and then itself, so that the whole pumping cost to the central STP gets reduced by 70%. So again, that's where we need more and more innovative technologies to come on board, so that we can show these value additions to the government and make them convinced for this particular case. I remember because we have worked on that, and it was well accepted by Indian government.
Yes, I think the issue really is that we have to, in a sense, look at the right mixture of DWATS technology that has come in, to use technology which reduces the energy cost, as Sandeep has mentioned, because the energy cost in sewage itself kind of makes it unsustainable financially in the long term as well. And I think that's one of the questions you had. You had another one?
Yes, if I am allowed.
Later on, I think I just have a couple of people, but we'll just come back to you.
That's fine. I'll wait. Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr.
From Snehanshu Roy.
From Snehanshu Roy. Please go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, I am Snehanshu Roy from Hungary also and friend of Sunny Basin. And I'd like to hand over my question session to Sunny because I'm representing him also. And if you don't mind, maybe Sunny can go ahead with his question.
Okay, go ahead then. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Snehanshu. The second thing that I noticed, especially in large cities, that the municipal wastewater treatment capacities are largely unused. For example, like in Delhi, almost 50% of the wastewater treatment plants are running under capacity. Now, I don't understand the situation because, on one hand you've got a river like Yamuna, which is, constantly being polluted. And on the other hand, you've got municipal wastewater treatment capacity that's going largely unused. I mean, how does this work out? What is the regulatory framework to stop this from happening in the future?
Yes, thank you. I think that's a very good question. The problem is that, of course, the network kind of eats up the thing and nobody gets the wastewater to the wastewater plant, and they are unutilized and unviable and don't work. But anyway.
Yeah, so all these plants have been put up on EPC mode. When it's EPC, they always consider L1. Most of the vendors, most of the EPC players, they bid for 100 MLD plant and they put only 70 MLD plant. That is what happens, and that is what is happening in Delhi. So all these plants who are running under capacity are not running under capacity because there is no water. There is ample amount of raw sewage going into Yamuna, but these plants are not capable enough to take that water. That's why they go.
Yes, well, yes.
The solution again is to make sure that if it is 100 MLD, it actually gets 100 MLD. So the user, the EPC player who has put up this plant has to be put on hold for at least 10 years to make sure that 100 MLD plants gets treated from this.
Yes, okay. Just adding on, and thank you very much for your questions, Mr. Basin. We have a problem in terms of the utilization of the capacity is not only because of what Sandeep mentioned. One is that there is a level of mismatch, but there is also a mismatch in terms of actually the issues that wastewater has they have no problems in not performing. Even if they're not performing assets for the government, they are assets in a sense. And that's where it remains. Okay, we have a question on email from Mr. Bruno Roderick, and he's asking, is there a potential for private strategic investments into wastewater technologies? For example, Indian corporates acquiring foreign technology providers. And I think...
Yeah, there are a couple of examples already. There are multinationals who are already partnered with Indian agencies, or they have set up their own Indian concerns on wastewater treatment, but we may, at least to my experience, when we talk to the people, first of all, we don't have too many companies in India who are offering services. I think that's one thing. Secondly, we were asking the European companies, whether particularly the German companies with whom we interact often, whether they are interested to collaborate with Indian companies to make the services cost effective. There was not a clear answer on that. A couple of companies are already operating in India in the name of Indian registered companies, but the question of whether the foreign companies would like to strategically partner with Indian companies, I didn't see a clear answer from the Indian companies nor from the foreign companies. Yeah. I think it is still to be explored from both sides, and if there is an interest, but as we are saying, there is a clear market and a demand for cost-effective services and for innovative technologies that make it work in India. Now, how the market would develop, how much will the private sector play a role, how would the strategic partners work, I think that is all need to be explored.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the Indian corporates looking at foreign technology providers, I think that is on the anvil, because I think there is a large market which is now being developed, and with initiatives such as IWDP coming into play, there would be possibly a lot of reverse movement from Indian corporates taking interest in terms of foreign technologies. There'll be some issues with respect to IPR, but that is something that is now being addressed. EBTC addresses it, for instance. Okay, we have another question. This is from, actually, we have two questions from Mr. Akhil Chaudhary. The first question is about reuse in agriculture, but it has health impacts, and I think I myself made the case that there is got to be appropriate use, because there are health impacts with respect to wastewater reuse. It's the level of technology and the level of cleanup that you do, which can actually make the final usage something that is correct in terms of these things. But in what I think Raghu was talking about was agricultural usage for different levels, right?
Yeah, I was mentioning of an ongoing research project, as one of the participants also mentioned about lack of standards and norms from the government side. So currently the work we are doing is more on a research scale, EU-India mirror project as we call it. It's being researched in Europe as well as in India to see under what conditions can we use water for agriculture. So this is on a research scale. This will go on for 4 years. We are at this moment not advocating it right away for agriculture. Unless we have research conclusions and also standards specified to what extent the treatment should be undertaken before it is used for agriculture, this will not be promoted for agriculture.
Yes, that's right. I think we've run out of questions. We also have run out of time. Thank you very much for, in essence, tuning in. And the EBTC webinar series continues next week. And I think my colleague will be talking about IPR. And so please do tune in, and thank you so much.